And I think this is what Lovecraft was talking about, where he said something like to the effect of the most merciful thing in the world is the inability of the human mind to correlate its own contents.
We're back. Conjecture Time, episode 13. This is Chris. Hey. How you been? Good. Yeah, I'm good. Where you been the last few months? Not here. Not doing podcasts. That's for sure. I've been working. Getting over back pain. Writing up applications. Planning things. Wow. When I think about it now, just saying it out loud, the last 3 months, a lot has happened. In a good way. Feels good, you know, sometimes you can get down on yourself that you're not getting enough done. Or if you're creative minded at all and you have a lot of ideas on your plate that at various levels of completion, we might be in the same boat. But I find it's good to reflect. If you do look back, you know, I've started journaling recently. I used to journal years ago. It's been a long time, but now I've been getting back into it, and at least a couple times a week, if not a few. I'm trying to journal, and it's good to articulate into writing what's on your mind, what you've been doing, what you want to do. For myself, anyway, I find it helps just to bring ideas into this dimension in a more concrete way, not thumbing a note into your phone, but actually writing it down on paper in your handwriting. Your brain is guiding your fingers, all the little curves and the dots and the lines. Something about that just that takes ideas to the next level, and I think helps you understand yourself a little better. But yeah, I highly recommend doing that. Take a little inventory of what you've done in the last month or 3 months or 6 months, and you might see that you're doing all right. You might find out that you're a little too hard on yourself and you are actually getting a lot done. Or you might be a lazy ass and you realize you haven't moved an inch, or maybe you've gone backwards, which we do. We wax and wane. Sine waves, waveforms, music, audio, sound, vibration, up and down, up and down. You can't have up without down. We don't have day without night. We don't have warm without cold, at least where I live, above the 44th parallel or whatever they call it, 45th, something like that, something up there. We're pretty far north. Not super far north. We're far enough north that it gets freaking cold. It gets real cold. But this has been a very mild year. Yeah, strangely enough, it's weird. All the scientists talking about global warming, and it's been the hottest year on record. And I think every month for the last year has been the hottest month on record that month. But it's probably nothing. So business as usual, guys. I don't know. The amount of carbon in the atmosphere, carbon dioxide, that balance, who knows? We'll see. We'll see what happens. It's probably nothing. Should be good. I don't know. We'll ask Elon Musk what he thinks about it.
Why would you run this crazy experiment of changing the chemical composition of the atmosphere and oceans by adding enormous amounts of CO2 that have been buried since the pre-Cambrian era? That's crazy. That is the dumbest experiment in history by far.
Okay. Well, we appreciate your opinion on that, Elon. Those are strong words. I am of the opinion that the government and the powers that be are working for us in our best interest. So I'm sure if there was a real issue, they would be right on top of it, since they can make the big decisions. They're the big players in the game. They can move resources around to offset these kind of things if this was a real problem, if this was an issue. But we appreciate your little tiny opinion there, Elon Musk, and keep on keeping on. Netflix and chill. Night coffee. Coffee's a vice. That's a thing. Of course it is. Oh, wow. I heard something interesting the other day about coffee, that in Japanese culture, like tea has been their traditional drink for, I'm not going to pretend how far back, that I know how far back Japanese culture goes. But up until the 60s, 70s, when some sly marketing dude injected coffee-flavored candy into Japan in an attempt to acclimatize them to the taste of coffee. And lo and behold, coffee is the drink now. In Japan, coffee is more of a cultural sit-down, sip and drink than tea is. Supposedly, this is what I'd heard from some scientist on a podcast who studied psychoactive substances all over the world. Talks about sugar and salt as being hugely overlooked as easily the most used and abused psychoactive substances, and how slavery came about because of the quest for sugar, enslaving people to grow sugarcane in these tropical climates. So these barbarians could have their cake and eat it too and enjoy it. Make it sweet. So wow. Okay. Well, that was out of left field. I like it. None of this is planned. It's good. Sometimes it's just good to chat. How you been? You haven't said much. All right. Well, I guess I'll keep it going. Jeez. Oh yeah, I got a show coming up. I'm pumped on that. Not my show, but myself, Grandma Bears, and John Zoe. 3/4 of the Sparky Quartet. Excuse me. So we will be a 3-piece for this show, but not Sparky. We're not playing Sparky tunes. We're doing something different. We are playing the show. We would love to do Sparky. Ninja Spy asked Sparky if we would play at the show May 26th at Vangelis in Saskatoon on Broadway. And man, I got a burp on deck here. My voice will go back to normal once it comes out. So Sparky couldn't do the show because Niels is not quite back in Saskatchewan yet. He's still living on the Albertan side of the border. So just not quite feasible and realistic that Niels is going to be around enough to jam, to prepare for the show, since we haven't played as a band in over a year. We haven't jammed together. So rather than play a crappy half-assed Sparky set, we thought, Graham and John and I thought, let's do something new. Let's change it up. We're going to jam some stuff out. We've had one rehearsal with the three of us, and I'm hoping we get some more together, and we're going to form some stuff and hopefully make you guys crap your pants and blow up your heads. Why do metal bands always want to blow up people's heads? Melt faces off? Make you crap your pants? I don't know what it is. Some kind of a power thing, I guess. If I can get you to crap your pants, you owe me $8. What about that? If you didn't have to pay cover unless your face actually melted or you left with heavy pants? I don't know. Just a thought. In another universe, it's got to be happening out there somewhere. Isn't that what they say? Scientists, the really smart ones, that if infinity is a thing, given the number of stars and galaxies that we know are out there, that they're parallel universes are probability-wise existing in every possible form and combination that we can imagine. I don't know. Probably those same scientists that say that climate's changing because there's a bunch of CO2 in the atmosphere that forms a thick blanket that keeps the heat in. I don't know. Come on, guys. You just hate billionaires. You dicks. Leave those guys alone. Tillerson and his boys, they have been keeping us moving forward. Infinite growth since, I don't know, what, 70s, 60s? How long has he been on the board of Exxon? So just leave those guys alone. Fucking scientists in there. Data. Predicting the future. Let's go to space. The oil's in the ground, boys. Smarten up. Anyway, all right, here we go. Conjecture time. 13. Let's drop a beat in here. Hope you enjoyed that beat. I don't know what beat it is yet, but that was a good one. So, what else is new with you? Okay. Well, I've been writing a lot of songs lately. It feels good. I've had a pile of unfinished songs lying around for a long time, and I've started to develop a group of them, and I'm applying for some funding, some arts board, l'assistance. It's out there, and I've always just been too, I don't know, not a big paperwork guy. So I put the work in, and man, did I put the work in. I sat down for a couple weeks just working on this thing and refining it and defining, intentionalizing what I'm trying to do here with these songs that I've been writing, that it feels like are just in my head. I don't know. It's not like it's nothing like the songs that I've been recording and releasing for the last 15 years with Sparky. Nothing like that. Now there's one that's kind of, it's in that neighborhood maybe. But yeah, most of the stuff is pretty, a little more sparse, a little more organic, whatever that means. Just it costs 20% more. No chemicals. Little more honest It's earnest, honest, intimate, and it's kind of scary, to be honest. It's because it's like, whoa, you're sitting there with acoustic guitar and your voice, and some of the stuff that's going into these songs for me is just like, it's, for me anyway, it's personal, it's deep, it's in my roots, in my blood. But man, it feels good to start intentionalizing and doing something with these songs, because there's something there. I don't know, they shake me, they move me, so I think there's got to be a few other folk out there that might be into them, or that might get something out of this music. And maybe I'll share some of that with the podcast sometime here in the future. I will know a lot more about the fate of this project in a few months. Yeah. No matter what, I'm going to be doing this. I'm making this album, but I'll see if this funding goes through, to see if I can start it sooner than later, or see if the application goes through. Anyway, amen to Canada for giving money to the arts, for, injecting that fertilizer into the arts to keep it alive, to help people produce professional works, and just to recognize that artists are worth something, that this is, black and white. You're supposed to pick conservative or liberal, or we have NDP, whatever, as well. But it's just not all about the economy. It's not all about the arts. It's not all about education. Well, like some could argue for that. But there really needs to be a healthy balance of all of them. And yeah, easy to say, balls. I've never been a politician, but I can tell when they're lying just when they open their mouths or tweet. But yeah, so I'm not going to be running for mayor anytime soon, city council or premier. I'm probably just going to be working on this album and putting up the occasional podcast. Hopefully jamming more with Graham, John, and Niels here in the near future. And, I got some hip hop stuff I want to work on too. And I guess like whatever that beat was I dropped in there was probably something from my little loop beat project thing I do. I call it a project because I know there's a category that all these sounds fall into, and they're, composed on a loop pedal. So it's in a certain realm. There are clear boundaries and kind of, certain sounds that go into that, and what I can do with that just with my face. And I'm looking forward to doing that too. That's something else I'm going to go for in the future. I'm going to do an album with my beats and my loops. Maybe throw some eel rhymes on there, some hip hop, something like that, a little bit of that. Never know, man. You never know what you're going to do. There's no way to tell, man. You just got to leave it up to the Lord. Sweet Lord's tell us what we're going to do, man. Just look to the sky and, crack another beer. Just like you got a day here. Right here. Tell you what. Man, I was thinking about it today. I remember when I was in the South in 2005, 30 dates or whatever it was, 28 dates on tour with Poser Disposer. Rest in peace. What a good band. Badass grind band. Thrash, grind, punk. If you can find a Poser Disposer CD or record around, snag it up. Consider yourself lucky and melt your face off. Yeah, I don't think they're even on any of the streaming apps or any of that stuff, but I just booted the mics down. But yeah, Poser Disposer tour, summer 2005. I remember myself in Memphis, Tennessee, and we're loading up the trailer. We're getting ready to leave. We've been in Memphis I think we just stayed there one night, had a show, and wow, the South is a different world, or Memphis, Tennessee was anyway. this guy's name was Mickey, and he was like the uncle of whatever the band was that we were staying with. And he looked like a little Charlie Manson, just kind of scraggly hair, kind of leathery face, short, scrawny dude in his 50s. And, they played the show the night before. I was selling merch, and this guy, he's helping me load up the trailer, and he just looks at me. He says, man, you guys are all right. He goes, we don't usually get along with Yankees. And I kind of cocked my head a little bit like a dog that you just said walk to. And and I said, Yankees? I said, I thought, doesn't that mean like you're like American? He says, no, Northerners. He just points up. I'm like, well, so that kind of blew my mind that anybody north of them was a Yankee. Like he knew we were from Canada, but he called us Yankees. So it's just like, you're South or you're a Yankee. And I know he wasn't a big fan of people from the South either, from below his South, because I remember walking to the store. I smoked cigarettes at the time, and I went to get some cigarettes with him. And we walked to this little convenience store, whatever the gas station was, walk in, and there was a line, 6 or 7 people in line. Outside, there was a black guy standing outside the door, and get inside, there's Mexican-looking guy, Pakistani or Indian-looking guy in line, and a few of them were talking in their language that they speak in, and Mickey here is elbowing me and imitating them and like mimicking them, but mocking them, and this scared the shit out of me because I'd never seen this blatant, loudmouth racism like this, and I don't know this guy, and he's elbowing me like, hey, we're white, let's make fun of these guys. And I'm like, no, let's get I'm going to get my cigarettes and get the fuck out of here. I don't know you. So yeah, that was a wake up call to the South. And, anyway, the reason I go into this story is I just kind of, when I reflect back on that 12 years ago, I kind of have a better idea of how out of touch the rest of America and Canada can be with their the current state of politics in America right now, when you realize how different the South can be. And that was, I didn't see a lot of that, but there was some ugly racism in Memphis, Tennessee that I saw. But man, Alabama was a great time. I didn't see any racism there. I remember the bar that we were in, all kinds of, black and white people, and everyone was getting along as far as I could tell. And Alabama, now that I think about it, man, there was a Huntsville, Alabama. Poser Disposer played in a strip club. And I've heard this kind of story before where a band plays in a strip club, but it actually went down like this, where we would show up, there's girls dancing, a grind or a punk band would go on in the other corner of the room, start thrashing away and screaming, play their 20-minute set or whatever, finish, and then on the stripper stage with the poles, another girl would hop up there and go on. And it was really interesting because this club in particular was, all the women were like whatever the minimum age was there, if they were, following the rules, 19 or 20, 21, whatever. They're all like young, 19 or 20-year-old skinny white girls, or 50-year-old large black women. And that was the contrast. It was like skinny young white girls, older big black women. And I remember Steve Murari was the Poser Disposer drummer. I haven't seen him in a long time. Hey buddy, I'm sure you're listening to Conjecture Time right now. Steve was sitting front row, and there was this BBBW shaking, doing her thing, and Stevie was right up there with a big shit-eating grin on his face, and some dollar bills in his hand, shoving in the thong or whatever. And Yeah. It was a sight to behold. I wish we didn't have the cell phone cameras back then, or I'm sure we'd have more evidence of this, but trust me, she was big and he was smiling hard and everybody had fun. And, yeah, so that was a good time. Good old Huntsville, Alabama. This just makes me think about something I've shared with my wife before, how when you do something you haven't done before, like you're in a new place, you're traveling, you're in a different city, different country, memories stick out a lot more. You know, when you're doing the same thing day to day, you drive the same places, you see the same people, days fly by and nothing sticks out. You don't create any meaningful memories or anything that, novel memories. Whereas from that tour, like traveling for 30 days with those dudes, living in a van, driving through like 40 states or whatever we did, I have so many memories from that just because of all the novel situations and the different people we met, the accents, the sights, like Washington, D.C., seeing all the monuments and the Pentagon and the game arena where we had the sandwiches. Just seeing these sights and traveling, just getting out there, creating new memories. I don't know if there's been studies on that, but it would be interesting to study Alzheimer's patients and or just like a survey of people with Alzheimer's to see how many of them do the same thing day after day, or what's the ratio of it'd be hard to measure that, but I'm just guessing, I'm inferring that I don't think there are many world travelers, people that explore the planet and do different things every day and challenge themselves, that are getting Alzheimer's. I totally could be wrong. I don't know, but that's just what I've seen in the limited cases I've seen. That they tend to be people that are, you're around the house a lot. You have the same kind of day in, day out routine life and don't see a lot outside of that. So it'd just be interesting. I don't know if somebody were to change things up and introduce some new sights and sounds and people into the mix. I wonder if that would alleviate some, or, prevent early onset Alzheimer's or whatever. I'm just blasting out my face here. I'm not a doctor. May cause cramping, leg pain, back pain, earache, headache, sinus congestion, anal leakage, bloating, death. Yeah, keep it novel, keep it weird, move around, travel. I don't know what it would be like now. Going to the States in 2017 could be a little different. I love that how fast the powers are advancing for Border Patrol, TSA folk. They can take anybody's cell phone, suck your data off of it, and go through all your shit. And how many terrorists have they caught that way? So, I mean, realistically, okay, a terrorist is trying to get across the border. Is he going to bring a fucking phone with him that has evidence of it? Anyway, put a few billion into it and, see if you catch a guy. So the USA is just not what it used to be. Some might say it was greater before. I don't know. Some. Not me. I don't know, because I haven't been there since it's become great again. So, as for Conjecture Time, the future of this podcast, I don't know. I'm going to keep it going. I'm going to keep my Libsyn account alive so this podcast remains accessible, and I do want to put more episodes out. I want to have, I've met some interesting people lately, and a few I've got on a list to sit down and do podcasts with. And actually, maybe the time is ripe. Actually, I could see some serious podcasting happening here in the near future. I heard a local guy in town in Saskatoon. I forget his name. I've never met him, but I heard him on another podcast, and he is a legit philosopher, or was a philosophy major anyway. I don't know if he philosophizes for for a career. But I would love to sit down and chat with him, because I have a lot of ideas and questions and very little education. And sounds like he's got a lot of education and opinions and ideas. And I'm gonna try and get in touch with this guy and see if I can't coax him to come out for perhaps some beers or coffee or whatever his liquid vice is, and maybe we can squeeze some real philosophy out of this guy. I think I have that in the description of this podcast: philosophy, music, art, blah blah blah. But yeah, it's just really something I'm interested in. I'm interested in the big questions. I'm not by any means educated in it. Socrates and Descartes and Sartre and Nietzsche. Just read some writings here and there and understand very surface level basic stuff about their philosophies, but would love to sit down with this guy and chat some more. So if you're the philosophy guy and you stumble across this podcast, get in touch. ConjectureTime@gmail.com. And just reach out. Anybody can reach out to ConjectureTime@gmail.com. Say hi, recommend a guest. If you know anybody you think would be a cool guest or that I would get along with. Not that it's hard. I can get along with almost anybody, but for a real interesting chat, yeah, I need somebody that can get abstract. Get a little bit get outside the boundaries of your weather and news chat. It's just the news is just a waste of time, and fake news, just the term itself because it comes from the orange man who calls news now fake news, and catches on. News has always been fake. Have any of these there's real events on there, but you always have to discern for yourself. You've got to analyze. Believe your eyes, believe your ears. Don't pick a side and think this guy knows. No, this guy knows. No, she knows. Because they all have their agendas and they have their biases and opinions too. So at the end of the day, don't soak up all of that data and just expect that you're going to deduce a better conclusion because you've watched more newscasts or whatever. And I'm just talking to myself here, really, because that's me. I've been pulling out of Twitter, my only social media, because Twitter is so polluted with sensationalized media, and I could stop following all these news outlets, but I don't want to. I still want to be able to get news and opinions, and I like to know what's going on. But my suggestion to you, who is me, is to just take it in small doses, instead of chronically checking your Twitter 5-10 times a day. For myself, I've been going back now. I'll check it daily, but for a couple weeks, excuse me, it was once a week, and wow, it was life-changing. It's like a weight is lifted off of you when you don't have so much chaff floating around in there to sort through. These international global problems aren't ours to process and worry about. They are in the sense that the decisions we make should reflect the world that we want to live in, but we don't have any control over these the big players and movers, the king and the queen and the bishops. We are but pawns, but we have that we have power in our choice in what we purchase and in what we propagate, and in the biggest way, just our attitude. In society, in your community, just what do you put out there to people? some people can be really draining, you know, every time you bump into them, they're complaining about something, or that's their default. It's like, hey, how's it going? This sucks. Oh, yeah, that's too bad. You know, always victim role. Some people, everything's great all the time. They just don't want to touch the other stuff. And everything in between. We're all humans flying through space on a rock covered in LJ and mammals and insects, and water, and we really are in this together, man. What do you get? 80 years, some of you. Some of us, 90, 70, some only get 60. On it together, man. Big picture. Think ahead. Yeah. Write things down. That's my tip of the day. Again, it's for myself. But it might work for you too, to journal things. Oh, and lastly, this is an idea I have. I haven't done it yet. But think of how simple it is. Like, you know, when you want to do something, you want to challenge yourself or discipline yourself to, you know, this week I'm not gonna eat this, or I'm gonna, you know, eat more healthy, or not eat past a certain time, or whatever it is, whatever kind of guidelines, if you're into that, if you're into, you know, self-improvement, experimentation, discipline. I've been on this kick because I didn't have a ton of discipline growing up. I didn't feel, I never went to university, so I didn't have that, you know, discipline. But, so I'm doing that for myself here and there lately. These little kicks, whatever. Do this for a week, don't do this for a week. But I'm thinking about, what if you just authored your next day? Like, say you carried a little notebook around, you write down tomorrow, you know, here's, I'm going to get up at this time. First I'm going to do this. You know, for me, I like to get a short meditation in every day if I can, a yoga practice, and eating cleaner is always on my list. But what if you could just, one day ahead, just the day before, you write out your day and schedule out your day. It's you doing it. You can trust yourself. And if you had to follow that, why does that seem so hard? Maybe not for everybody, but for me, I've seen that before. Your mood changes and you're like, no, I want a piece of toast smothered in peanut butter and jam, whatever. But, yeah, anyway, I challenge you, try that. Try to author your week, just the day before, or a week ahead. If you're a ninja, author your whole week, or if you're a sorcerer, author the rest of your life. No, maybe that's dumb, because you're going to need flexibility. You got to change. You got to make adjustments. Anyway, big picture, planning ahead, thinking big, conjecture time, keep creating, keep working, keep doing what you do. I love you. I've always loved you. Your parents love you. Your brother loves you. Your sister loves you. And damn it, I love you too. Have a good night. Conjecture time.
Nobody can do it like me. Nobody. Nobody can do it like me. Honestly.
Nobody's stronger than me.
Nobody has better toys than I do.
There's nobody bigger or better at the military than I am.
Nobody loves the Bible more than I do.
Nobody builds walls better than me.
Nobody's better to people with disabilities than me. Nobody's fighting for the veterans like I'm fighting for the veterans.
There's nobody that's done so much for equality as I have.
There's nobody more pro-Israel than I am. There's nobody more conservative than me.
There is nobody that respects women more than I do.
Nobody would be tougher on ISIS than Donald Trump.
Nobody's ever had crowds like Trump has had.
There's nobody that understands the horror of nuclear better than me. And nobody even understands it but me. It's called devaluation.
The sale of the uranium that nobody knows what it means. I know what it means.
Nobody knows more about trade than me.
Nobody knows the game better than I do.
Nobody's in the history of
this country has ever known so much about infrastructure as Donald Trump.
I know the H-1B. I know the H-2B. Nobody knows it better than me.
Nobody knows politicians better than I do.
Nobody knows more about taxes than I do. Nobody knows more about debt than I do.
Nobody knows the system better than me, which is why I alone can fix it. Let's give me no lawyer. No lawyer.
I am.
Lawyer.